Hey everyone, Chris at Lime Punch Forge. On guard in the weirdest kind of awkward kind of way. Today, these guys. These are crucibles. And what we're going to talk about is how to season your crucible. And I'm not talking salt, pepper, paprika, and all the other good stuff. I'm talking about borax soap. Not the kind of seasoning that you want to eat, but the kind of seasoning that would work amazing in keeping your crucible in serviceable condition for a long period of time. So what I have here is, making it rain, a crucible that is pretty much brand new, piece of brand new ceramic crucible, and it comes and is very porous. And what we're going to do in the seasoning process is take that, if you will, porosity and make it nice glaze into glazosity. So that glaze is going to give your metal a nice lubrosity for it to melt, and then it's also going to make it so that it protects the surface of the crucible from sticking to the metal if it dries. So the borax itself in the melting process helps take impurities out of the metal and separates it, holds on to it, and then once you get done with your pour, you end up with a crucible that's got some impurities and stuff like that. And when I talk about crucibles later on, how to clean them, we'll talk about that. But for today, seasoning with borax, not pepper, because whereas delicious, it doesn't work. So yeah, join me over there at the soldering station. We'll get this started. All right, before I get into this started, we're going to do a little bit of talking because you might not be able to hear me over the torch. So I have my frame, my handle for the crucible, and it just fits. I like to go from the bottom, and then I'll just tighten it down. I like to try and keep the bottom nice and level, and tighten this fella down without turning that other screw. So let's see what I can do here. All right, so we have that nice and attached. Now I have my gas turned on for the acetylene, sicko. And what I'm going to end up doing is taking that torch and I'm going to get this super hot before I do anything with it. I am not going to add borax and then torch it, because the gases coming out of that torch are coming out at quite a bit of velocity. And when a dry material is pushed by something with high velocity, it goes poof. And you don't want borax going poof all over your shop. So I heat this up first so that when I add the borax, all I'm doing is adding it to a hot crucible so that it'll melt. And then once it starts to melt and bubble up, like you'll see, I'll go ahead and add the torch. More, melt it down, and then I'm just going to coat the inside of the crucible. Now, as far as what to use, this is a cocoa container, and all it is just borax, Mule Team borax that I've poured into this old cocoa container, and I keep it in there for miscellaneous kind of parties and crucible seasonings. So that's all I'm using to season it, heat and borax. So I'm going to go ahead and get the torch fired up and try not to melt my cameras, and I'll let you guys kind of watch the process. I'm going to speed it up probably, but what you're going to see is the crucible will get nice and hot. When I add the borax, it's going to bubble up. It's going to get glassy, almost like a enamel for ceramics. And essentially that's what we're doing, is we're enameling the inside of it with borax to keep it nice and sturdy. So last thing I want to add is that once you're done, let it cool by itself. Don't quench your crucible ever, otherwise you're going to crack it and you're going to need to buy another one. Nobody wants that, unless you want another crucible, and then you can do that, but I don't. So let's turn this gas on. It's already on. And I have a Smith little torch and a Smith silversmith. This one is the number two, and it's the larger of the ones, so that it allows me to melt metal relatively quick and heat up my crucibles relatively quick. So let's do this and enjoy. Alright, so what you saw was heating up the crucible, adding the borax. There were some parts in there where I added a little bit too much borax to kind of show how it puffed up. It grows like marshmallows blowing up in a microwave is probably the best way I can explain it. But essentially the inside of the crucible was coated, and now it has a nice covering, and you saw a little bit at the end. I'll take some pictures, add them at the end of this video. The next step is going to be actually melting metal and making an ingot. So stay tuned, watch Lion Punch Forge on Instagram, IGTV, YouTube, Facebook, all those other fun places, and check us out because there's more to come. And hit a like, hit a subscribe, help support the channel, and I hope to see you soon. Stay safe, help your neighbor, and wash your hands.